introducing Ambassador Soulalman Daramy. He's an accomplished administrator and diplomat with more than 20 years of experience in international foreign relations and diplomacy. He has strong executive and diplomatic background, including alliance building, teamwork, conflict resolution, and peaceful coexistence. He's an expert in diplomatic and operational protocol. Amongst other positions, he's High Commissioner of Sierra Leone. He was one time, High Commissioner of Sierra Leone to Gambia. He was also Ambassador at Large and State Chief of Protocol Office of the President. He was also Ambassador at Large and Director General, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, also State Chief of Protocol Office of the President, all in Sierra Leone, and Minister Councillor, Sierra Leone High Commission, London and UK. He's had so many, and amongst all, he's written some very interesting books, which I think, and articles, which I think are relevant. Amongst those books are All Protocols Observed, which is going to be talking about today, a handbook on protocol practices and procedures. He's received so many national awards, and he's also fluent in English and Swedish, which is really good. So today he's going to be discussing no protocol is observed by the phrase all protocol observed, a piece of protocol correctness in Africa. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for the fine presentation. Just a quick word, please. I want to commend the Professor Eseke for the fine talk. Something I wanted to add all along was the abundance of eminent Africans we have, which we could use as soft power personalities, particularly so when they leave power. The interesting aspect is when they are in political leadership, I'm talking here of our presidents, we tend to criticize them and we tend to look at them differently. But the moment they leave political offices, they become eminent Africans and they are engaged in a lot of activities across the world, negotiating between Africans and Europeans, between Africans and leverage quite well. And he's doing quite some good in the Obasanjo's, Goodwill, Jonathan, even Tambo Mbeki leader, our late President Kaba was very good at resolving conflicts between the British and the Arab world and so on and so forth. But again, I think I was sending a piece to Professor. My piece today is it's on protocol, specifically on protocol. It's in line with what I'm working on. After my book, All Protocols Observed, I realized that a lot of people still continue to do a lot of mistakes in protocol procedures. So I'm working on what I call common mistakes in protocol and how to avoid them. And this piece is something I wrote some time ago, and I think I cannot find a better platform to present it than this one today. I could just read, it's a very short one, and I hope where we could have people making comments and questions. It's called No Protocol is Observed by the phrase All Protocols Observed, a piece in protocol correctness in Africa. Over the years, this phrase, all protocols observed, has increasingly become commonplace salutation in social, formal, and official settings. And I consider this practice, especially at gatherings, a breach of protocol procedure. It is for me like driving on a one-way street in the wrong direction. This piece is an attempt to provide an answer to the question, what then is wrong with this phrase or protocols observed? Protocol is a set of internationally accepted courtesy rules which prescribe certain formalities and courteous behaviors in public gatherings. It describes how we do things in particularly orderly manner. Failure to behave in accordance with any of these procedures is considered inappropriate, hence a breach of protocol. For example, we stand when national anthems of countries are played. We fly national flags in appropriately designed format. In my country, designed in 3 equal horizontal bands of green top, white in the middle, and blue at the bottom. We fly our national flag with the green parallel band at the top at all times. So to observe protocol is to follow the rules of protocol correctly. This includes particularly the practice of correct salutations at gatherings. Salutations is simply a greeting or acknowledgement of persons present at an event in a particular order called in protocol precedence order. The protocol rule of precedence is a fundamental and universally accepted pattern of behavior that forms the basis of salutations. It is the acknowledgement of the hierarchical standing of persons present at an event or society in general. It is the protocol order by which guests and dignitaries are addressed, they are seated, they are received and greeted. It is simply the pecking order of people at events. It means, therefore, that at gatherings, one will have to greet, sit, acknowledge persons in particular order, some of them by names, some of them by titles, as we have in Africa, some of them by positions, or some other criteria. In Sierra Leone, as in many African countries, we take special pleasure in doing this because many people, if not all of us, like it. We want to hear our names and titles in public to amplify their standings in society. People like it because it is a sign of respect and it boosts their ego, sometimes, of course, exaggerating their importance. As a result, it has become a cultural practice which incidentally does not breach any protocol standard, except perhaps the fact that it consumes more time. So to simply see all protocol observed as a salutation is not only a protocol breach, but a breach of a common African practice as well. It is simply saying, in my opinion, forgive me for not recognizing observing protocol order of precedence by not acknowledging those who should and must be recognized at this event. This is an error. And for me, an error in protocol is a breach of a fundamental rule, and it is not acceptable. It should not be practiced. But of course, this can be avoided. To avoid this error, especially in the face of running out of time in endless lists of dignitaries in Africa, we should adopt a safe rule of the tongue and simply say, standing on existing protocol. I believe several light-hearted durations of this can be composed when necessary. And if it's used properly, it could bring in some humor and glamour and take away the dull moments from gatherings. For example, one could say, standing on existing protocol so eloquently laid out by our beautiful or elegant chairman, or in the case in the event where we have a lot of excellencies, particularly heads of state, you could say, Your Excellencies, with your gracious permission, let me stand on existing protocol of the House, and then you continue from there. These, I believe, will also enhance the desired pomp and pageantry and bring in a flair to the show. At most gatherings in Africa, everyone and anyone of substance will be present. The never-ending salutation list will eat into the limited time allocated to speakers, besides the fact that programs themselves never commence on time. Furthermore, in the presence of highest political leaders in society and big personalities, speakers will never want to struggle with salutations, which can sometimes be very confusing and chaotic with some chief titles, some positions. If you are not very much afraid with it, it becomes very difficult. So they conveniently adopt the awkward word. I always call it awkward one-liner, all protocols observed. Generally, I believe the use of this phrase, all protocols observed, arose because of four main reasons. I hope there are not many, but these are the four I've been able to identify over the years. Firstly, most people wrongly view the phrase as an appropriate substitution to proper salutations. This is wrong. Secondly, some people ignorantly and arrogantly consider it a waste of time on lengthy salutations, which is also wrong. Thirdly, some people become frightened and very nervous not to leave out some important personalities in their speeches, of course, for fear of repercussions afterwards. You will know what will happen after if you don't recognize me in a big event where I've put on my very beautiful attire and I come in their seats and you don't recognize me. So people get afraid. And finally, and more importantly, the failure, I believe, of the protocol in charge of the event or the event organizers to prepare a list of precedents which all speakers should follow. It is because of these above reasons, singularly or collectively, that people indulge in the breach of fundamental protocol precedents with a popular one-liner or protocols observed. To observe protocol, in my view, is to ensure that all protocol rules are adhered to, such as correct sitting order, appropriate flag etiquette, correct address system, correct pronunciation of names, appropriate dress code, and of course, national anthems. The full protocol checklist, the full package. So speakers at public events have no business in talking about the full protocol list, but to observe the protocol that has direct bearing on the task they have, and that is correct salutation. Correct salutation based on the fundamental protocol principle of precedence order, which gives it all the flair and glamour. That's my brief, and I think this provoked a few thoughts, so I want to hear comments and questions which will enhance my work on
Oh my goodness.
on amending the common mistakes we do in protocol. Thank you very much for listening.
Oh, thank you so much, Ambassador. That was so beautiful. I thought you would go on. I didn't know you were going to finish up. But really, it's so practical. I think everyone or most people in this room must have used the word at some point or the other, and I just think it's a good way to learn that, making us understand why it doesn't suit. The four reasons you gave are quite very practical. People think it's just a waste of time. I think, why would I just start, calling all that names or titles, and that's really good. You explaining the reason why that is, and I think it's really good. I'm sure we'll have one or two comments on this. So probably let's give it a one or two comments so that it doesn't look like I'm the only one talking about it. But yeah, Ladonna wants to say something. Yeah.
Yes, I do have a question and a comment, if I may. Thank you again, Ambassador, for providing that presentation. And it was quite thought-provoking because I've never heard it used that way. So it was interesting to me to hear that that statement that you stated. But while I haven't heard it used, the four reasons that you identified as issues as to why people use this, I have been a party to events or ceremonies where, because of those reasons, someone isn't introduced appropriately, or we don't recognize a title. So it just really changed the way I thought and think about things. My other comment here is to say all protocol is observed is truly to be none that is observed. It's confusing to the audience members, to the principals, to the dignitaries. I just think about introductions. Well, if all protocol is first, in Vienna, or at the United Nations, or here in the NATO, we go by the country's name of an alphabetical order, by which they call themselves. But in the US, we do it differently. Do we do them both while in the same venue? How can that be? Because one would, so this is very thought-provoking. And how do we improve? How do we do it better? How do we not make these mistakes?
For example, in introducing them, particularly countries like in the States, the easiest way is to go alphabetical order. It is believed that all countries are equal because they are all independent and sovereign states. The United States, for example, will always start United States of America. The Gambia, for example, small though it is an independent sovereign state. So if you were to put in order of respectability, or you want to respect their presence, for you not to be in trouble or to have any problem at all, you put it in alphabetical order. Simple as that. And the alphabetical order in the language of the host country where the event is taking place. For example, if it were in Spain, if we were hosting a meeting in Spain, Spain, which begins with an S in English, would always come before any other country, even England, because it will start with España. It will start with an E, because the language you use in that host country, it's E. If you are doing it in Netherlands, for example, or France, for example, you will call the Netherlands, not Holland, not the Netherlands, but you call it what? Pays-Bas. So Holland goes down the ladder to P, and so on and so forth. So, and this is universally accepted. So you don't get into any trouble. We do the same thing when we put heads of states in that order. How would you put a head of state? Say, for example, if I were to be president for 30 years, I've been in office for 30 years, and you come in tomorrow, you are president of Spain, for example, and then you say, oh, we have to call you in order of length of stay in office. It's not very acceptable. Some people will grumble. Some people won't be happy. But accepted phenomenally if we say it's in alphabetical order, irrespective of how long you've been president. We put it in alphabetical order. That is why countries in Olympics, countries at international sport, except for the host country in Olympics, for instance, and Greece, these are the two exceptions to that rule. Greece being the founder and the host country being the host will always come last, and then Greece will always come first. This is accepted universally. We've accepted that, and so on and so forth.
Wow, there's just a lot. I think the main point to take away there is it has to be made clear on what rules we are following for this particular event and stick to it. It's not just this blanket that all protocol is observed.
No, all protocol is observed only when you follow all aspects of protocol. Did you have the flags properly put? Did you put people in their correct sitting order? Are people well dressed? Do you have the list of speakers in order of precedence? Yeah. How are they coming in to take their seats? Did you put it in alphabetical order? That is observing all protocol. As a matter of fact, that is the language we use as protocol officers amongst ourselves when you have your checklist. You and your colleagues are hanging heads. And then the first question you ask, I hope all protocols observed. Meaning, do we have our flags correct?
Yes.
Do we have them in alphabetical order? Do we have the sitting allocations done, and so on? But to use it as a salutation, it is improper.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ambassador. That was quite good. I'm sure we'll be coming back to you. I have a lot of questions and how we drive this going forward.
You're most welcome.
Yeah. So there's quite a lot we're trying to harness, and I think this is part of it. So it's quite really good. We'll go quickly to the. Please, if you have questions, just put them down there. There's some people who say they want your book, Ambassador. So we have to look at how we could.
Yes, you
the
and I will
center.
work
The,
on
the
that.
center is the center is trying to order some books. So we can have that given to some of our participants. So I think we could look at that from that direction, and that will be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you so much for today. So we're going to go straight into the next
Thank
speaker.
you for having me.
Yes, we're going to go straight into the next speaker.